Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. And also happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the United States. Speaking of which, this is the second in the homesteading series, and funny enough, Thanksgiving, a common image associated with it is a cornucopia, and that's a little relevant to what the part two is going to be about, which is orchards. Now, not every homestead should have an orchard. Not every person who gets into homesteading would want an orchard. But I do think if you have the space for it and the patience for it, it can be extremely fruitful. No, but seriously, what's nice about orchards is once you've established one, they just keep giving year after year, and you can make a lot of nice things with them that are calorie dense. That in a environment where you don't have ready access, or you eschew ready access to, you know, processed sugars and things, it can be a real boon because you can do a lot with them. You can make kompot, which is more Slavic, but that's something I like to do, especially with cherries. You can make jams and jellies, which last a long time and are very calorie dense. You can make wines, which are even more calorie dense and last even longer if they're done properly. There's just a lot you can do beyond fresh fruit and pies. And for those reasons, I think an orchard is really an ideal thing for a homestead that has the space. And that's step one. What you need is space. You need a field with arable soil that you can readily make holes in, that you can put trees. And that is important. Really rocky, really sandy, really silty soil can be a nightmare. I've done that firsthand, and it's significantly more challenging. But once you get beyond the main obstacle, which is just a space issue, having adequate space, because trees get big. Even dwarf trees get big. They still need a good 5 feet minimum, 10 feet ideal kind of space between them. And if you're dealing with even bigger trees, 15, maybe even 20 feet. So you do need a lot of space per tree. And you need to really map it out first. That's the first thing I would tell you before you even get a shovel, before you start digging. Map it out, figure out where you want these trees to go. Then use your digging implement of choice, whether that's a shovel, a post hole digger, a spade. I actually prefer a spade. And from there, what you want to do is dig just before you plant, because it's going to fill up with water otherwise, and it could erode. And it's not something where you just want to like basically make a minefield of holes first. And then the second thing you want is a 5-gallon bucket of water. And that's in order to add the water the way it needs to be when you plant the trees, because they kind of go into shock anyway. So giving them some of the soil they go into shock if you don't do this adequately. It's kind of like a goldfish. You want to get the soil from their original pot that they were in, and also plenty of water, just because it helps them acclimate and it gets over just the overall shock of being planted in new ground with a new pH balance and new mineral balance and the whole 9 yards that go with that. And then the last thing you need is probably the most obvious, and that's the trees you want to pick. And that's going to be a whole other video, so don't pick trees yet until afterwards. But what you really want to do is you want to dig a hole where the roots can fit comfortably and not fall over at the same time. And that there is a bit of a tightrope walk there, but it's not crazy. And I would actually recommend risking the tree falling over and then staking it so it stays upright over too narrow an opening where you risk breaking the roots off while you're putting it in the ground. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to dig a hole. You're going to take a seedling, sapling, whatever. They vary in cost and size. You can actually get, not fruit trees, but if you're interested in trees, you can actually get free seedlings from the Arbor Day Foundation. That's shade trees, though. Every once in a while, they'll have nut trees, but very rarely. But fruit trees, they usually cost, I don't know. Last time I bought one, it was like $24. So it's a lot more expensive than a $1.50 packet of seeds from the Dollar Tree, or $1.25 or whatever they happen to run for. But you are paying for something that just keeps on giving. So something to evaluate. Just for the record, like what I've got. I've got a grapevine. I've got 3 raspberries, 4 blackberries. Those are not trees. More on that later. 3 pears, 2 peaches, 5 apples. See, I know there's more. Oh, 3 cherries, a pawpaw, 2 persimmons. So that's just me. I'm just giving you an idea. And that was something that was done over a period of years, and it's a long-term investment. So it's not like growing regular crops. And that's kind of why I wanted this to be the second part, is just because it's not for everybody, and it's something you might want to consider later on. So I kind of thought it would be nice to knock that out of the way, because it's one of my favorite things about a homestead is an orchard, but I also understand that it is a long-term commitment, and there's going to be a second part to this further down the pipeline. So, but that's really the bulk of it, is you dig holes, you put the seedling in the hole, you add the water so that the seedling doesn't go into shock. And also I would recommend adding the soil from the original pot. You just tamp down the soil to where it's standing upright. If it absolutely keeps falling over in the wind and the rain, then you want to stake it. That is to say, put a stake in the ground nearby and have it propped up via twine running to the stake diagonally. But that's unlikely if you do things right. And then from there, it's just more about making sure the seedling, I keep saying seedling, sapling, doesn't get dehydrated, doesn't get predated by caterpillars or anything of that sort, doesn't suffer from disease. If it does get disease, treating it. And over a period of years, once it gets established, once it actually makes it a couple of years and starts having flowers and ultimately fruit, it can take a while though. Now you've got something that you don't really have to worry about as much. Now, like, the worst thing that could happen would be tent caterpillars or lightning, And so that's kind of the nice thing about it, is unlike, everybody has a bad year with potatoes or squash or corn or something. But if you can get past a couple of years with fruit trees, you're probably not going to have a bad year with them for years and years and years without any kind of need to replant. So that's the nice thing about an orchard. And I'll talk more about the trees you would really want and ensuring you have the right cultivars in a part 2 to this. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.